Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan is taking a big risk to fix the Tennessee Titans culture, and we're going to see if it pays off. I'll explain on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland, Titans fans. Today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On today's show, I am finally going to be answering some mailbag questions. It's been a while since I took your guys' questions on the show, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. We're going to talk about Callahan's big gamble. We're going to talk about best landing spots for Will Levis. Also might do a little quarterback AFC South Mount Rushmore. But before I dive into all of that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content. All year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there. Tune in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. We have Titans OTAs next week going into phase 3. We'll talk about that in a second. We have mandatory minicamp right around the corner, and then training camp will be here before you know it. So make sure that you don't take an off season as a Tennessee Titans fan and stay locked in with me here at Locked On Titans. But with that being said, do got to start. So I had a little bit of, I guess it turned into a controversial tweet on Wednesday, which I guess I'm prone to do. But I just had an observation about something and the way the Tennessee Titans are going about the offseason, what they're trying to accomplish, and why it is such a gamble for Brian Callahan to do it this way. Whether I think it's a huge gamble or weird, it can be perceived that way. Now, I was asked by Titan Fan 12, I think it was Instagram or maybe TikTok message. I have trouble keeping track of the other social medias outside Twitter because I'm old and I have a hard time going through a bunch of social medias. But I was asked how concerned I am about the observation I made with Brian Callahan. And let me break it down like this, because there's a lot of confusion as to where I'm coming from. But at the end of the day, I think that Brian Callahan has taken a major risk from a perception standpoint, from an optics standpoint, with the way that he has handled the early offseason so far, the things that he said, and the decisions that have been made. So let me go step by step here to explain why I think that it is a bit of a gamble. You're Brian Callahan. You're going into year 2. You just went 3-14. You just drafted a number 1 overall quarterback. If the Titans struggle this year, if Cam Ward struggles this year, Brian Callahan will be fired. Brian Callahan is on the hot seat. And some people push back on that. And they're like, why would Brian Callahan be on the hot seat? The Titans have to have some patience. They're hiring and firing and stuff like that. And I agree that some patience is required. But if the Titans go 3-14 and Cam Ward looks terrible, having patience with the wrong person, and let me tell you this is not just football coaches. Having patience with the wrong person can be just as detrimental as impatience. If you give the wrong person too much rope, you'll hang all the same. All right, so keep that in mind here. If Callahan just doesn't have it, the Titans would be harming themselves by being overly patient. So all I'm saying right now is that I think Brian Callahan is on the hot seat this year. He could potentially, we are not going into 2025 saying there is no way that Brian Callahan gets fired before next season. He will be the Titans head coach in 2026. There is no way any logical person could say that. So with that in mind, I simply made an observation that, man, if Callahan comes out and they don't do well the first half of the season, I bet some national people and some local people say Brian Callahan didn't have his team ready to go. And I would imagine they might point at some things like how the Titans didn't do 7-on-7 in rookie minicamp. They did orientation like they were an accounting firm. They just did an onboarding for their new employees. They didn't actually do 7-on-7 and those things that you're allowed to do at rookie minicamp. Rookie minicamp. There seems to be some confusion as to what I'm talking about here. The Titans could have done 7-on-7 rookie minicamp and they chose not to. I was not that mad about that. I thought it was weird that they preached competition all season, and then the first opportunity they had to have real football competition, they said, no, we're not going to do that. Now, it's been pointed out to me that there are other teams that forego rookie minicamp entirely, so we shouldn't, we can't scoff at the Titans for not doing 7-on-7 when some teams don't do it at all. You know who didn't do rookie minicamp at all? It was the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's because they're cheap. And they don't want to feed the players and have the players in facility for an extra day. That's why they don't do rookie minicamp, because they don't want to pay for it as a franchise. Also, the Cincinnati Bengals during Joe Burrow's era are notorious for slow starts. The Bengals are one of the most criticized organizations in the NFL for their lack of seriousness in the offseason and the preseason and all these little things. And then that is why people say, well, the Bengals always start out slow and miss the playoffs with Joe Burrow because Zach Taylor doesn't get them ready to go during the offseason. And now we have Brian Callahan, who is a Zach Taylor acolyte, who is not taking full advantage of rookie minicamp and playing 7-on-7. And then, again, they're having regular practice. These videos that they're putting out of rock, paper, scissors and tug of war with sleds and, all these different little games that they're playing, that's after they get their real practice in. But perception is reality. You've heard that term before. You can be one person out of 21 in a room. If 20 people in the room think you did something, whether you actually did it or not, the perception is reality and you will be treated as if you are whatever they think you did. That is life. So I'm not saying that I'm mad that Brian Callahan didn't do 7-on-7s at rookie minicamp. I'm not saying I'm mad that all the Titans want to do is put out these field day events that they're doing after practice to build camaraderie. I'm not saying I'm mad about that. I'm saying the optics of that and the perception of that, if Brian Callahan were to come out at 1-6 after losing at home to Mike Vrabel, God forbid 0-7 after losing to Mike Vrabel, 2-5 after losing to Mike Vrabel, there are going to be people, both national and local, who say, Callahan came from Cincinnati. Cincinnati's never ready to play at the start of the year. He did all these strange things, and Callahan's been talking about it too. All right? And let me clear this up. The Titans as a team, the veterans, the rookies, the Titans cannot do 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 during phase 2 of the offseason. Next week, they go into phase 3. We talked about this earlier in the week, and I described the difference. When they go to phase 3 next week, the entire team can do 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. That's not what I'm criticizing them for. There are teams that are already in phase 3 that are doing that stuff, and the Titans can't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that not doing 7-on-7 during rookie minicamp, when you were allowed to do that, when other teams did, and treating it like a 9-to-5 business job orientation, that is a bold choice to not maximize competition. Constantly having your social media team post videos of these field day events that you're doing, even though you're having real practices before that, the optics and the perception of that is, oh, are they taking this offseason serious? Then you add in Brian Callahan talking about this field day thing that they're doing, where they have everybody broken up into 8 teams, and you get different points, and, 10 points for Gryffindor, and -5 points for Hufflepuff, and whatever he's doing with the team all split up. He's doing that to try to build camaraderie and try to build a team and try to build culture. Well, the issue is they don't feel like they had a good culture last year. They are desperately trying to create leaders. And some could say, and I saw a Nashville radio host say they're gimmicks. Through these gimmicks, the Titans are trying to create leadership and create a culture on their team because they don't have one. So I'm just pointing out, I'm saying, here's an example for you. I'm saying, we got to go somewhere. It's me and someone else, and we got to go somewhere, and we have to be on time. I'm going to take the highway, take the fastest route there to minimize margin for error. The other person says, I'm going to take the scenic route. And I say, well, I don't really care if you take the scenic route, but just make sure you're not late, because if you're late after taking the scenic route, people might be mad. If you go the highway and you blow a tire, can't really be mad. I took the highway. I tried to go the fastest route possible. If you said, I'm going to take the scenic route, don't worry, I'll be there on time, and then you're late, regardless of whether it's a real reason or not, or a valid reason, people are going to look at you sideways because you tried to play in their face. So I am just saying that if Brian Callahan does not start this season well, if he does not kick off this season properly, then people are going to point back to the offseason, just like they do with the Bengals and his mentor, Zach Taylor, and they're going to say Brian Callahan was unable to get this team ready to play, probably because they were playing field day events and doing orientation. Am I upset about the risk that he's taken and the gamble that he's taken to try to fix the culture? No, I'm not upset about it. But I am just pointing out this could be used against him in the future if he does not succeed. And for people to ignore that as a possibility and act like, oh, anybody that brings anything of this stuff up is dumb. We shouldn't. That's moronic to you. Well, people will. And if the Bengals see a similar approach with Zach Taylor and go, maybe he's not getting the team ready to play, and that's why they start slow every year, then to completely wash this away and be like, oh, that's unserious, nobody serious would pay attention to that stuff. Well, it might actually make a difference in Cincinnati. So I think people might be paying attention to it. But more mailbag questions now. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Also, crazy comebacks as well. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Look, I was rooting for the New York Knicks. I can't lie. I want the Knicks to win the finals at this moment in time. But after what the Pacers did to them in Game 1, I have a hard time believing that the Knicks can recover. So I'm probably going to back the Pacers money line throughout the rest of the series, and I would imagine that you'll win more games than you lose. But hey, if you want to check it out and you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. It's a mailbag episode. I got to one question. I'm sorry, I had a lot to say about that question. I'd probably do an entire show on it, but had to cut off at some point and get to more of these questions from you guys. So we're going to dive right in right now from Crazy One. Crazy One says some more Callahan talk. Where would Brian Callahan rank among coaches? I think right now, and I saw the power rankings of coaches the other day. I don't remember where it was from, but it had Brian Callahan last in the NFL, not counting the new coaches that just got hired this year because, what can you do? And honestly, I don't see how you could put him anything other. I mean, the Titans were diabolically bad. They had a despicable special teams unit. It was absolutely awful. They oftentimes came out unready to play with an unserious mentality to start games. A lot of the problems the Titans had last year weren't just the roster, but coaching as well. So I think if you have Brian Callahan anything but bottom 3 in the NFL right now, honestly, you're not being fair. Ben Buska asked, do you trust Brian Callahan after he played Burks over NWI? Guys, in my opinion, this question is born out of an overration of NWI. Like, Titans fans will never let it go. the 9 touchdowns will blind people. NWI did not get a good contract from an NFL team. NWI is not a great player. He's a 4th or 5th wide receiver. He got some lucky touchdown production last year that he's not going to replicate throughout his career. He's just a solid depth player. He's just another guy. And I'm going to play the first-round pick who's healthy over NWI every single time until the first-round pick proves to me that I can't do it anymore. And that's exactly what Brian Callahan did. Could he switched a little earlier? I don't know, but I don't blame Brian Callahan for trying to get more out of the first-round pick, who has way more upside than what NWI is going to give you, even at his best. Eric Callahan said, what does Callie need to do to keep his job? 6 wins. That's what I've said, 6 wins. He's got to win at least 6 games. They got to double the wins. Cam Ward has to look good, too. If they win 5 games, but Cam Ward looks awesome, probably keep his job. It's kind of a combination of those 2 pots. If Cam Ward looks terrible and they win 6 games, he might not keep his job. 6 might not be enough. So it kind of depends on those 2 pots. Eric Callahan also said favorite food. Got some fun questions there. My favorite food is chicken wings, and it will always be. Shadow Lord said, I know it's early into the new regime, but so far, how are you feeling about the direction of the team? Do you feel like they can finally get on track, change the perception, and get some sustainable success? I do. I do like the direction of the team so far. I like a lot of the changes behind the scenes. I think it's time for the Titans to revamp their organization in multiple areas. So like changes in PR and medical staff and things like that. Like I do think that that's smart for the Titans to kind of revamp the process. And I think Chad Brinker has a lot to do with it. Again, like I said yesterday, you judge process, not result. And I think the Titans process so far is been good. Untitled Constantine says odds the Titans repeat what the Commanders did last year. I think those odds are very low. I think they got lightning in a bottle. I think Dan Quinn is a very experienced coach. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a very experienced play caller. And I think Brian Callahan doesn't have the experience of either of those guys. So even in year 2, I don't trust that the Titans can repeat the Commanders, and I don't think that the Titans roster is as solid as the Commanders roster was in certain areas. But Weasel Blaster said, notable free agent that you want signed? None. There's really no free agent out there that I'm like, I like the Titans roster for what it is right now. Anywhere that you'd sign somebody, it'd be taking away reps from a young guy. So maybe one of the wide receivers like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen, something like that, just because I'm worried about the youth of the wide receiver group. But do I really want Keenan Allen taking snaps away from Xavier Restrepo or Chim Dike? Or even if it means that the Titans are worse as a team for it, I would rather prioritize the young players that they drafted at those spots. Cody Wee says, landing spots for Levis. I think the Rams, I think the Browns, I think the Saints, and I know this sounds crazy, but the Jaguars with Liam Cohen again, the college connection, that could make some sense if the Titans don't care where they're trading Will Levis and just want to get the best value. I think that could make sense for the Jags. Cody also asked me for my AFC South quarterback Rushmore, Mount Rushmore, and to have one from each team. For me, it's Peyton Manning, obviously, Steve McNair, obviously, Mark Brunell, obviously. Houston is hard. Do you want to go with, Matt Schaub? Do you want to go with CJ Stroud? Do you want to, I ultimately went with Deshaun Watson, but if I was doing just an overall AFC South quarterback Rushmore without doing one of each team, it's Manning, McNair, Brunell, and then to me, it's either Luck or Tannehill who gets the last spot. So Ryan says, time to discuss Big Jeff. He thought the can't lead by example comment from Brian Callahan earlier this week might have been directed at Jeffrey Simmons. Jeff doesn't seem like the type of guy who tries to lead by example. I think that was on the O-line and in, Calvin Ridley doesn't want to talk up. He wants to lead by example. Peter Skoronski doesn't want to talk up. He wants to lead by example. Lloyd Cushenberry is another guy who may not be super, super vocal, but I think it's more that. I think Jeffrey Simmons among anybody. L'Jarius Sneed, Amani Hooker maybe another guy who he wants to Kenneth Murray. I think Jeffrey Simmons is somebody who is leading by mouth and example. But as for discussing him, I agree. I discussed Jeffrey Simmons earlier this year. If he doesn't produce this season at the level that he should for what he's getting paid, then the Titans have to consider some changes. I don't know what they could look like right now. We'll look at the options after the year or at trade deadline. But Drew Phillips said, will the D-line and Jeff be better in 2025? I don't know. I don't think Femi again, for me, is a guy who is going to be much better in 2026. I'm not expecting him to do anything crazy this year. Lorenzo Carter is not a pass rush threat. Draymond Jones will probably help a little bit, I would imagine, but he might just be replacing Harold Landry. At that point, is Draymond Jones and Harold Landry going to be super, super similar if they both have, 7, 8, 9 sacks? Like, I don't think the Titans D-line is really any better, to be honest with you. I have faith for Femi in 2026, but for this year, with Key and Carter and Draymond Jones, I don't think Sweat is ever going to be a crazy pass rush threat, and Simmons may just be who he is. So I don't know. I don't think it'll be much better, to be honest with you. That's a place they still need to get a lot better. Hunter Payne says, expectations for Latham and Zeitler, and are you going to any games? I'm not going to any games. I took my father to the Packers-Titans game from last year where Malik Willis dog stomped the Titans, and I will never go back again until they win a playoff game and prove to me they're a serious team. That really made me angry. I had a terrible experience at that game. But expectations I think J.C. Latham should play at a Pro Bowl level. J.C. Latham should be a top 10 right tackle with no question about it. It shouldn't be an argument. It should be, is he top 5? He should be top 10, no doubt. That's what I expect from J.C. Latham this year. Zeitler is who Zeitler is. He's just a top 10 guard, going to give you solid plays, 35 years old. I can't expect anything different than what he's been recently. But Latham, I expect to take a huge jump. Delicious mango. Man, mango sure are delicious. You're right about that. Bare minimum for Cam Ward to be a franchise quarterback. I can't give you an answer on that. We got to see it. It's not going to be a stat. It's not going to be, a thing that we look at, a number of wins. It's going to be the tape. It's going to be what we see on film, and I can't give you a film prediction for that, to be honest with you. Concern point, Zachary Story says, concern point in the season for Cam, like when would I be concerned about Cam? I would say if he has more interceptions than touchdowns in the first 2 months, I would be like, things are not going well. Zach also asked, why does running back translate to special teams? He had a comment about how Hassan Haskins was a good special teams player, but he always thought linebacker would translate more than running back. Well, what I would tell you is when I talk about Kal-El Mullings and how he could be a good special teams player, one of the big things I'm talking about is he used to be a linebacker. So Kal-El Mullings was a linebacker, and he moved to running back at Michigan. And for me, it's not even about linebacker, this and that instincts. It's size and speed. If you're a football player, you should be able to tackle. We can teach you to tackle. But if you have size and you have speed, you have a chance to be really good on special teams. And there are running back builds out there like Hassan Haskins, like Kal-El Mullings, who have size and speed. So in theory, the size and the speed could translate into good special teams play. Always Titan says, wide receiver 2, Tyler Lockett. Has to be. I hope one of the rookies steps up, though, whether it be DK, Ioman, or Restrepo, and becomes that number 2 option. Real Wolf King, man, I love wolves. That was always my favorite animal growing up. Says, which rookie do you think will be cut from the 53? Mason Kinsey makes the 53. Mason Kinsey's not making the 53-man roster. No, the rookie, I think, I'm not going to be crazy here. It's the 6th rounders. I could see Jackson Slater, Kal-El Mullings, and especially Marcus Harris. But cornerback is not that deep, so that maybe that gives Marcus Harris an advantage. So I would probably say Jackson Slater, because I think the Titans could cut him and get him back on practice squad. Although I'm going to have him making the roster, I think. But Kal-El Mullings or Marcus Harris are the best bets for me. And honestly, I'm not. Those are the last 2 rookies drafted. So, duh. Jake B says, which rookie versus rookie matchup are you most excited for? Week 14, I think it'll be Cam versus Shador. I really do. Logan Dedman said, thoughts on cornerback? It's going to be a major need position for the Titans last year. I don't think that we can count on L'Jarius Sneed at this point. And if you can't count on L'Jarius Sneed, very, very rough-looking group with just Roger and JBJ. And then what after that? Darrell Baker and rookies? Very, very dangerous group. I'm telling you, man, the Titans roster is in a terrible, terrible spot right now. They're just starting the rebuild. Wilson McClellan says, Titans a top 10 special teams unit? Potentially. I'm not certain that I'm confident in any of the returners at this point to make that real, but Bones Fossil, the Titans' new special teams coach, is one of the best in NFL history. Austin Hall said camp battles to watch. I'm going to talk about this a lot over the summer, but linebacker, edge, tight end, wide receiver, those are the ones I'm looking at most. Real Paul Terror says how many running backs on the roster? I thought 3 initially. I think I'm going to say 4 running backs make the roster now. And then Titansville says, Khalil Mullings, is there any chance he could take over for Tajay Spears? My answer is no. I don't think Mullings will be ready for that, his rookie season. But with that being said, got a couple more questions from you guys. Can't wait to dive into them. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On Titans. We're doing a little mailbag. I answered a long one in the first one with Brian Callahan and the Big Gamble. I think he's taken this offseason to redo the Titans culture and the path that he's taken to do it. But we talked about Levis landing spots, a lot of stuff on individual players. Now I want to get into some fun questions that you guys sent into me. Before I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camp gets closer and moves are being made, hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Next question. And again, these are kind of fun ones. All right, little off the beaten path. Mr. Clean says, 5 legends from the Titans that you would put on the 2025 team. His answer was Keith Bulluck, Javon Curse, A.J. Brown, Kevin Byard, and Eddie George. My answer, number 1, I'm starting with Derrick Henry. Prime Derrick Henry with Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, I think would be the best running back group in the NFL. You could argue Derrick Henry is still in his prime right now. I would say 2019, 2020, Derrick Henry, definitely more of the prime than right now. But he's still a very, very good player. But nonetheless, if you could put that Derrick Henry on the team with the collection of these other folks, that would be great. Keith Bulluck, my favorite Titans linebacker ever. The reason I wore the arm sleeves in Pee Wee football and stuff. Keith Bulluck. The Titans desperately need pass coverage, athletic linebacker. If you could have Keith Bulluck next to Cody Barton, I think that would be absolutely amazing. I agree on Kevin Byard. Give me Kevin Byard in the back end. I'm not that in love with Xavier Woods. Kevin Winston's going to need a year. Amani Hooker and Kevin Byard back in when Kevin was in his absolute prime, 2017 to 2021. That would help this team a ton in the back end. Javon Curse as well. Totally agree. Curse would be an instant add for me with the edge. You add Curse to Arden Key and what they have. Now I think you have really something special. And then my final entry is maybe a little controversial. I'm going to go with Taylor Lewan. When Taylor Lewan was at his best, he was a top 10 offensive tackle. I think that he's a much better version of Dan Moore. And Lewan was fun and made the team fun with his energy. I know that's the same reason a lot of people don't like Taylor Lewan, which I understand to a point. Some personalities just don't mesh together. And there are people who are just never going to like Taylor Lewan's personality just because they don't mesh. And again, that's something I've learned a lot about throughout my life, is there are just some people who don't mesh together. No matter what you do, some people just aren't going to like certain people. And that's the way that it is. Goes both ways. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Taylor Lewan. So, Derrick Henry, Taylor Lewan, Kevin Byard, Keith Bulluck, and Javon Curse. That's the 5 I would add to this year's team. Ryan Smith also said, game that I'm most excited for. For me, it's either the Patriots game at home, because that's juicy, or the Browns game in Week 14. Like I already said earlier, that's my favorite rookie matchup. I think that Shedeur Sanders will be the starting quarterback for the Browns by Week 14. So can't wait to watch him and Cam go at it. And the Browns and the Titans are both similar teams. Patriots and Titans, both similar teams. I'm not excited for these games where I think the Titans are going to be completely outmatched. I want to see Titans against teams that I think are in their similar tax bracket and see how they stack up. Logan Stafford asked, are you going to do a fantasy football league this year? So a couple of years ago, I did some fantasy football leagues, and the winner of that fantasy football league got to come on the show for a little bit. I'm just going to be honest with you. Doing Locked On NFL, doing the film content, doing Locked On Titans, managing my own fantasy football stuff that I do with like my buddies and everything. Like last year, I am, like, think about where I'm from. Like, I am a massive sports guy. Like, people know that I'm the sports guy. Like that's how things have been for me throughout my life. I am the sports nut where I'm from. I forgot to take out a player on a bye week in my big money fantasy football league in the middle of the season. I forgot because I was just so stressed and busy from all the stuff I do. So I enjoyed it, but I just don't feel like I can give it the attention that it deserves to make it fun for you guys. But maybe I'll change my mind as we get closer to the season. I know that was something that people did enjoy. The main gamer said, what's your biggest NFL hot take on the season? Team you think a step back, step up? I think the Lions are taking a big step back this year. I think their division is super tough. I don't trust Dan Campbell to have hired the right coordinators to replace 2 head coach level coordinators. And I'm going to go with the Lions as the team that takes a big step back. And a team that I think takes a step forward, I think in that division, the Chicago Bears take a step forward. But my real answer is probably one that you're not going to like. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars take a massive step forward this year. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars win the AFC South. I think that's where I'm going. It's the summer, so my opinions are in flux. You can try to dunk on me in October or December based on a May thought, but that's where my head is at right now. I do like what Jacksonville has done, and I've always kind of liked their roster and just thought they had bad coaching. So if they get better coaching from Liam Cohen, I think the Jags do rebound. Grizz Gray Gaines says, who do you think will be the NBA champion? I guess the Thunder now. I wanted Wolves Knicks with the Knicks winning, but I'm probably going to get the opposite of that. It's going to be Pacers Thunder. Boo. It's going to be, I think this NBA Finals will have the worst ratings of any NBA Finals in recent memory. I think it'll be despicably bad for the NBA. 2 teams nobody cares about. 2 star players that people don't buy into, even if they deserve it. Nobody likes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, he's not popular like that. He doesn't move the needle in the American cognoscenti. Corey Curtis, shout out to Corey Curtis. Would you eat the moon if it were made of ribs? It was a gift that he sent me. No, I actually am not a big fan of pork ribs. Not a big fan of ribs. Too much work when the meat isn't that succulent. And I admit, like, I haven't had great rib barbecue, but I did go down to Nashville and I had Edley's when I visited for that Packers game. And I had the ribs because I want to like ribs. I want to try them. They should be good. And I just don't like them. Ribs just aren't for me. Finally, B Chicken asked me for a recipe to impress his wife. Look, I'm not going to give you anything too complicated, but you guys know that I know my way around the kitchen as well. It is obvious. But here's what I would tell anybody who wants a meal that is easy to make, that can still be impressive if you do it the right way. It's chicken Alfredo. It's always a go-to. Season your chicken. I'm salt, pepper, garlic, onion, and smoked paprika. Both sides. Sear it. Get a nice sear on it. Leave the fond in the pan. Leave everything in there. You throw in, if you're making for 2 people, this is just 2. If you have a family and you want more, double it. It's really easy to double. But half a stick of butter. Turn the heat down low. Half a stick of butter. Throw in some minced garlic. Always do fresh garlic, guys. Get a garlic press if you need to. Don't use garlic. Don't do it. I'm looking at you. Don't do it. Minced garlic in the butter. Let it simmer for a minute or 2. Just barely. Get it going. 1 cup of heavy cream. Mix it together. Let it emulsify on low heat. Once it's completely mixed together, you crank it up to medium just to get it to a baby simmer. And then you add in about a cup or so of Parmesan cheese. Get the thickness where you like. I do a pinch of lemon juice, a little bit of cracked pepper and salt, of course. And then you cook your noodles of choice, and you take just a ladle of pasta water and put it in the Alfredo. You mix in your noodles. You mix it all together. You cut the chicken. You plate the chicken on the noodles. A little bit of asparagus with salt, pepper, and garlic, or salt, pepper, and lemon juice. 400, 10 minutes. Put some asparagus on the side, a little extra parm as a garnish, a little cut up parsley in the sauce and as a garnish. It's going to look like a fantastic dinner like you're a chef, and it's super easy. It takes like 30 minutes, 40 minutes at max. I'm hillbilly country redneck, so I add a nice piece of frozen Texas toast on the side too. But hey, that might be regional for me, baby. But with that being said, now we're giving out chicken Alfredo recipes, and we know that the show has jumped the shark and lost the plot. That's going to do it for me today. That's going to do it for this week of the Locked On Titans podcast. Thank you guys so much for hanging in with me, and thank you so much for always sending in so many mailbag questions. I am certainly honored, but that's going to do it. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.